You're watching Pyro Media Network.
I could be running or I'm chasing you, but I won't. Cause I got better things to do. Rather spend my precious time chasing somebody who loves me too. If I got $1 for every time you slam the door, I would be the richest girl alive, life. If you hadn't run away every time I asked you stay, you would sleep right next to me tonight. But you didn't know me, all you wanted was a game.
Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We hope your experience is fruitful. Please feel free to visit our website to find out how you can join our growing family. While we are loading your experience, please do us a quick favor and hit that like button from whichever platform you're watching or listening on. Also, share so others may enjoy as well. And we hope you would consider hitting that subscribe or follow button so you can check out more of our amazing content. Alright, let's start the show.
Hey y'all, happy Friday, Junior. I'm Nicole D. Vick of Nicole D. Vick Live. Woo! So happy to have y'all here. We got a great episode. So I have been talking about mental health this month, specifically Black women's health. But we're going to have a special guest tonight that's going to really help talk about resources, some of the stigma, the trauma, some of the issues around accessing mental health services in our communities. And I feel like we have a hard time. And when I say we, I'm talking about Black folk because I'm Black. I can't speak to nobody else's experience but my own. We have a hard time because there's some certain things, I think, culturally, historically, that we're still dealing with that kind of cause us to have a little bit of a harder time accessing services. Not to mention the fact that also in some instances in our communities, there are not that many services in the first place, right? So we're going to talk about that. But before we do, your homegirl graduated last week. I graduated. I walked across the stage, shook the dean's hand, all of that good stuff. My daughter was there, my brother, his wife. And listen, let me just say this. If you go on my Instagram or LinkedIn and you watch the video because I put together, of course, you know I did, a compilation video of my experiences from starting school to graduation. I'm just going to say my child is the best hype woman you will ever meet in your life because all you can hear was her yelling. It was so loud. I said, Lord, she probably got many people nervous sitting next to her. They probably ready to throw her out. But it was an amazing experience. I'm glad I did it because I don't know if I mentioned this. I was really not going to because of the protest on campus, and not because I was mad about the protest, because I wanted to support the protest. I didn't want to cross the picket line. Okay, so I was really thinking hard. I'm like, do I go? Do I not? And even my chair, who really speaks to why I chose her as a chair, she was also at the encampment herself and wasn't sure she was going to participate. So we had a little bit of a time trying to decide, and ultimately I think we all made the right decision. Still not happy about how they removed the encampment off campus. That's a whole nother conversation. But I am glad that I decided and had some thought, I thought about it and should I do this or not? And ultimately decided, okay, I'm going to do it. So let's get into the conversation. I have a fabulous guest, Dr. Desyree Dixon. I'm going to read her bio and then we're going to bring her on. She is a multi-award winning trauma therapist in the Mid-Atlantic region. She believes in the dual power of empathy and joy to improve people and organizations. Her clients named her the trauma transformer and a change point expert because of her boundless passion for helping people and companies heal from painful experiences and navigate difficult transition periods. Before we bring her on, empathy really stuck out to me because I actually know someone who I admire. She's on LinkedIn. Her name is Tammy Triolo. The producer knows her very well. She talks a lot about empathy and how important empathy is, specifically when it has to do with things like DEI and other types of things. So let us go on and bring on our guest. Yay! Hey, Trauma Transformer.
Hey! Hello.
How are you today?
Woo! Doing well. That was man, it has been a whirlwind. And it was just had to release it. Yeah.
So you and I have been through a thing. So last week we walked across the stage. And then let me ask you this, because people ask this for birthdays, like, do you feel different that now that you're a year older? Do you feel different now that you are Dr. Desyree Dixon? Do you feel different in your spirit? Do you feel
Absolutely. I didn't expect to. I thought, all right, this graduation, this process was really for the family, right? For them to come and celebrate all the hard work. We put all the hard work, all the problems of practice and all the iterations and edits, honey. So I thought that was the part that process was for me. That's the part that I enjoyed, all of it, the ups and the downs of all of it. But I did not expect to cross that stage. And as I did and shook the dean's hand and came down the stairs, tears welled up my eyes like, wow, thinking of all the family, thinking of all the folks that have transitioned, that didn't make it, that I would have loved to have been there, all of that. Thinking about my topic and how that impacts them, my family, other families. So yeah, it just hit me all at once. And it was definitely overwhelming. And coming out on the other side, yeah, I'm like, okay, all right. I did a thing, as you said. We did.
Listen, remember now, if you remember, so for the benefit of y'all in the audience, Desiree was behind me in line. So we walked in and she was literally right behind me. And right before we walked in there, I said something like, listen, and from this point on, can't nobody tell me nothing about me. And what did you say in response to that?
They never could.
Do you remember? And I think that's an important thing. I think that's an important distinction, because I think for a lot of people maybe that have not gone through this process, I think they may think that the school makes us. And I have said this before, and I feel like I've said it to somebody else. I said, no, I make that school. It ain't the other way around. And it's like, we've always been it, right? This is just a little stamp of something, but it's like, it's not that thing makes you the thing. You are already that.
That's right.
And this just enhances, right? Because it definitely does change you, and makes you a different person. So I'm glad we were in line together, because that's what prompted me. I said, hold on, I'll be trying to find guests for my show, baby. All the experts is in line behind, right here in front of me, behind me, to the side of me. Let me call the people.
Well, I am excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Now, before we get into the nitty gritty, I want to ask you, because this has been, like, to me, a current event that has been coming up. It was two things that came up, but I'm just going to talk about one, because this other one to me is, oh Lord. the girl, and I think it's been at least 2 of them, gave birth hours before defending their dissertation. And I will say, I don't know if the producer has the photo available, but there's at least one, and I might be 2 women that gave birth hours before defending. And what I've been hearing is negativity from that. Now, I'm gonna say what I think, but I want to hear what your thoughts are. And I have to say, before we get into it, my positionality, I don't know if you know, I was a teen mom in undergrad. I had my baby on a Wednesday, went to church. They let me out of the hospital Friday. I went to church Easter Sunday. I went to school on Monday. So for me, I didn't feel like that was a bad thing for these women to do what they did. And as you know, when you get to the defending your dissertation, you have done the work. The work is done. This is a formality, right? So I was hearing the school should have accommodated her. This is a nightmare. This is heartbreaking. And I was so confused. What do you think about what these women did? And is there a mental health component to it? Because I also can say, and I'm going to stop talking, I promise you, that we can examine the need for Black women to perform separately from what these 2 women do.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does. It does. 100%, Dr. Vick. So when I read, I know I saw one. I'm not sure if I saw the second one, but when I read it, similar to you, my positionality is I am the daughter of a teen mom, right? And that mother was at the graduation, right? She was 17 years old when she got pregnant, 18 years old when she gave birth. And my birth stopped, at least for that moment, her educational process, right? She was in her family, her identity was eventually to be a doctor or a dentist, right? And so my birth paused all of that. And so for me, I imagine when I saw that, I imagined that woman being my mother. Okay. And she would have done exactly the same thing. She would have said, no. You coming here with me, right? You're about to witness this process with me. I'm not stopping because of anything. And like you said, I think honestly, when I read some of the comments, I think the people who are saying that may not fully appreciate the dissertation process, and that showing up, it was really, that's just a celebration. You've already done all the writing, done all the editing. Once you get to that place, you're just showing up to get the quan from your committee. Even though they call it a defense, I don't know why they call it that, because it creates this image that you're there defending something, and there's this possibility and probability that somebody's going to tell you, no, we don't pass you. Go back to the drawing board. And that's just not going to happen. By the time you get there, all the edits, all the things that they wanted you to do, you would have done. So yes, giving birth and defending her dissertation were both triumphs for her in that moment, triumphs for them, I should say. But unfortunately, most people probably don't appreciate that. And so they're looking at it as far as her well-being. But to go to find another date again, to schedule your whole committee, now that you're a mom, all of that, no, absolutely not. Go ahead, if possible, right? It wasn't a difficult pregnancy. And so there was nothing that was preventing them from being there and showing up and celebrating with their newborn baby. Yeah. So that's from my positionality as the daughter of a teen mom. From a psychotherapist position, the mental health piece of it is that as Black women, we feel it important to show up, right? And so probably thinking about, again, oh man, now I got to go, nurse and do all this, and I have to, reschedule these folks, and I don't want to inconvenience them, and I don't want to inconvenience myself. So why don't I just go ahead and just make this happen? The ability to do all of that is really hard, but it's a part of the process. It's a part of why we got there in the first place. And we'll get into it. I don't want to get ahead of myself, Black women and having to show up and the need for the education in the first place, right? Because as I told you, and that's why I said it to you when you were in line, we already are enough. But because of a thing called identity-based trauma, and we'll talk more about it, it's what my dissertation was about, we're constantly feeling like we're not enough, right? That magic word that's out there that I cannot stand, imposter syndrome. Because of that imposter syndrome, we need to show up and defend and prove at all times. So maybe, I don't know either of these women, so I can't speak specifically to them, but maybe in the back of their mind, they're like, you know what? I don't want to look unprofessional, right? I had the baby. We're good. Baby's good. I'm good. Let me just show up. I don't want to let them think that this thing here is going to stop me from showing up and do what I'm supposed to do, right? Yep. That's a whole other conversation, but I won't get ahead of myself. But yeah, from those two standpoints, definitely I can see all of that happening for both of them. Yeah.
And see, your comments have already told me these questions that I wrote, baby, we ain't going through none of these. We might touch on them, but I'm like, because we got some things to talk about. We're going to go to commercial though, because I want to hear about this identity-based trauma. I'm like, wait a minute, what is that? Is that me? Watch what you said. I'm gonna be like, wait. But I want to go to break first, and then we got to come back because you got to tell us about your research and everything else. So we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Let's go a break.
Are you ready for enlightening conversations that transcend boundaries? Get ready for Conversations with Clergy, brought to you by the HIV Vaccine Trials Network. In partnership with the world's largest publicly funded international collaboration, the HVTN is dedicated to evaluating vaccines to prevent HIV and COVID-19. But their impact doesn't stop there. The HVTN is at the forefront of advancing vaccinology, social and behavioral sciences, statistics, immunology, and even contributing to the research on tuberculosis and COVID-19 vaccines. By supporting Conversations with Clergy, the HVTN not only brings you thought-provoking discussions, but also contributes to the global effort to combat infectious diseases. Tune in, stay informed, and be a part of the change. Conversations with Clergy, supported by the HVTN, empowering conversations, empowering lives. Join us in this journey of knowledge, understanding, and progress. Conversations with Clergy, proudly brought to you by the HIV Vaccine Trials Network, because together we can make a difference.
Elevate your entertainment with Watch Vim. Discover the ultimate online streaming destination. Get an auto-renewing monthly subscription for unlimited content on all devices. Join us in supporting a Black-owned streaming platform that brings top-tier entertainment. Let the streaming excitement begin at Watch Vim, your seamless experience for endless entertainment. Stream online or download the Watch Vim app now.
Did you know that you can now catch the electrifying sounds of Bulletin Flight Radio anywhere you go? Yes, you heard it right. Tune in to the high-flying beats and soaring melodies by downloading the TuneIn app on your mobile device. Just search for Bulletin Flight Radio and hit play. It's that easy. And if you have a smart device like Alexa or Google, just say, "Hey Google," or "Alexa, play Bulletin Flight Radio on TuneIn." Experience the rush of adrenaline wherever you are. Listen to Bulletin Flight Radio on TuneIn using your Alexa or Google devices. Soaring through the skies has never sounded this good. Don't miss out on the ultimate musical journey. Tune in now to Bulletin Flight Radio on TuneIn and let the music take you on an unforgettable ride. Get ready to elevate your listening experience. Brought to you by Bulletin Flight Radio.
our little commercial. I love the commercials because the music be so hype. I'll be back here dancing into my own little party. That's another story for another day. But anyway, two things. I also do not like the term imposter syndrome because I feel like for us, we know who we are. We know what we have. We know what we can do. We have been made to feel like imposters. They gaslight us at work, everywhere else. And then you start doubting yourself, and that's where the problem comes in. But it's like, no, I know what I'm doing. And then they just kind of do this gaslighting thing to us. So I don't like it either. But let's talk about your dissertation because now I'm real curious. I need to hear what's going on with that.
So I was reading your title and I said, of course, great minds think alike, because we weren't in any study groups together. We didn't talk about the title at any time. And your title, Beyond Resilience, right? Let's move beyond that in addressing the issue. Well, your friend here, the title of my dissertation is Beyond Competence, right? Gaining an understanding of mental health, the self-efficacy of mental health practitioners in assessing identity-based trauma. Okay. So my focus was on mental health because that's my field. That's who I know. And I wanted to start there because it's an issue. I've seen it in the trainings that I do. I train a lot of clinicians in different modalities, but particularly in one called EMDR. And as we're going through the training over the years that I've taught the class, I used to teach it with a group of folks, and now I teach it on my own. And while we were doing that, one of the things that came up all the time we would notice is that once we taught it and we showed them, we modeled it for them, right? I don't want to get all bandura on folks, but talking about self-efficacy and what's entailed in that, I would see a lot of those things come up, and they would, we're demonstrating, I'm doing the demo, and I'm like, all right, I'm just showing y'all what it's going to look like. And then we're going to go through the steps of teaching y'all. All the time, like, oh my God, I can't do that. No way. And I would every time always have to say, it's okay. You can do this. We were where you were once. And I would have to give them time, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever. You can do it. This is just a couple more years than y'all of practice. And then I would see a lot of them calm down. But for a lot of them still, it was still like, I don't know if I can do this. And you would just see them checking out, right? That feeling, that quote unquote imposter syndrome coming up, where they're just like, I don't know what she's talking about. I already can't even get the stuff done, regular therapy. Now she want me to be an expert in this thing and go, I saw all that. And so that was a driver for me wanting to help them, because the mental health crisis is at an all-time high in our country, in our society, in the world, with all the traumas folks are experiencing, right? And so I wanted to, one, address that. I did the education program specifically because I wanted to learn, I'm a trained mental health expert. I'm a trained social worker, but I'm not trained in the aspect of education. How do you help people to learn? Like, what are the tools? What are the components? How do you keep them engaged? How do you motivate them? All of those things that we learned, I wanted to learn and understand and add that to my tool belt. And so the combination of that, but most importantly, I think one of the questions, we say we're going to talk about was, why did I decide to become a mental health practitioner? And that was driven from my own childhood experience. As I call myself the mutt, right? Because I touch on a lot of different communities. I'm an immigrant, right? I'm Jamaican. I identify as queer. I'm a lesbian. I'm a Black woman, right? And I'm a full-figured woman. And so all of those things, that's right, girl. And so all of those things, all of those buckets that I fall in is a label that somebody else already decided meant something else. Right? Before I could even tell the world who I am and what I'm about, I walk in the room and already the ones that they can see, they've already made a decision about before I can even, I feel like I'm coming in, I have to defend myself, right? That in essence is identity-based trauma. the trauma that we feel from the oppression, right? The discrimination, whether it's individuals, groups, systems, whoever, right? That oppression and devaluation. Sometimes it's not like, oh, you know, you're like sometimes it's just being disrespected and devalued just based on who you are. That experience based on your identity, whether that identity is a social identity, any of the ones I described, race, gender, sexual orientation, culture, you know, all of that, even ability, your ability, right? Any of those identity-based traumas that you experience, that is an identity-based trauma. And those traumas you carry with you forever and forever. So unless you address it directly. And so one of the things that I see even in training, these are smart therapists. They've gone to grad school, they've done everything. But here come somebody else telling them, all right, you know, let's sit down, let's learn this. And immediately for them, this feeling of like, oh, I can't do this. Oh, right. All the what we call the imposterish feelings pops up, right? Because at some point before this, Dr. Vick, someone told them they're not that smart.
Yep.
They can't learn. They're not capable. And so when this new material comes up, it just opens all the Pandora's box, and all the negative things that they think about themselves show up, and they can't even focus and be there and learn. And that's not just for adults. As adults, think about kids. Think about a lot of young brown and black kids in school, right? You're told, oh, you're dumb, you're dumb, you're dumb. Oh, you're lazy, you know, all of that. They can't learn because they've already, based on some aspect of their identity, okay, they might have newer divergent learning, or just they learn differently. Now they have to worry about like, oh, I'm stupid, I'm this, I'm that, right? So those are those identities, and that's how it impacts us. And it starts very early in life, and it carries on through adulthood. And for us, the statistic says, however many of us there are, we are the most educated of any Black women. And so when you think about identity-based trauma, that's not a coincidence. Why is the most oppressed group also the most educated? Why? Because we spend our whole life trying to overcome this identity-based trauma, trying to prove we are enough, we're good enough, we're smart enough, we're capable enough. Because in our lives, in our workplaces, in our communities, wherever, we're always having to prove ourselves. We're always having to do a little bit more. We don't apply for the job that everybody else applies for if they know 50% of it. No. We got to know 100% of the job. I could do this, and this, and I got some more. Okay, I'll apply. When most of the folks, they could check a few boxes and say, all right, let me see what happens. Let me throw my hat in the ring. We don't do that. Identity-based trauma.
Man, you know what? Because now what you have just explained also goes back to what we talked about earlier with the young lady at the hospital with her baby with the definitive dissertation.
Exactly.
So on the one hand, and I think that's what I was trying to tell people, you know, I had several private conversations like in the DMs with people. Like, I understand a lot of us are smart people. We try to conceptualize and do this big talk. I said, but you also think about this is a woman who has a baby who honestly just probably wants to defend before, you know, so she can get that out of the way. Yes. Exactly. However, but what you just said, I'm like, oh, shit. That it really also explains, like you said, well, I gotta always be trying to do the next best thing. I gotta keep going. That also kind of explains why for her that probably made sense to do. Oh my gosh. And I think the other thing that I want to touch on is just a reminder too, to me, and I'm hoping to everyone else, that therapists are also people too. They're humans too. They also have similar fears, similar issues and concerns, just like everybody else. They're not perfect people. And I think it was really important for you to say what you said, because it humanizes therapists, you know, that they also have, oh, shoot, I'm supposed to be learning this thing, but I don't know if I can do it. And they kind of got a little bit freaked out. I think that was important to talk about. And to me, and let's talk about this. So having humanized therapists, how important is it for therapists to be, I don't know if this is the right term. I'm gonna say culturally competent. Maybe that is the right term for the people they're working with. So, for example, we were talking about this young lady that did the thing, and maybe she has identity-based trauma. I'm sure I have it. I'm sure you do. How important is it for her therapist, say she has one, to understand that, to understand her Blackness, to understand her being a mother, as they relate to each other? And I think I'm just really thinking about this because, again, I feel like us as Black folk, we have so many barriers to us accessing mental health, and most of them have to do with some cultural things and just maybe even fear. So I'll let me stop talking. You answer.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail. That is the perfect follow-up question. That is exactly why I studied what I studied, why I talked to the women that I talked to. These 14, 15 women, they address that, right? Why is it important? Because that word that you described is what we were trained. We were trained to be culturally competent. And so hence the title, Beyond Competence. Like, now we need to move beyond that, right? Because competence gives the idea that you are competent, you know something, right? But when it comes to identity-based trauma, what I'm trying to say, and what I hopefully have been able to say, is that no, it's more than that. Because my identity, right, as your client, so you're the therapist, Dr. Vick, you're the therapist, and I come to see you and I'm talking about, it's like, man, I'm stressed. Oh my gosh, I'm about to give birth, and my defense date is coming up, and Lord have mercy if the two coincide. What do you think I should do? Right? Part of you being a great therapist is being culturally humble. Now, you don't ever had gone through a dissertation process. You don't even have to be a mother, but you centering me as the client, right? So you centering me and my needs and what is it that I want to accomplish. I would like to accomplish both, please. Thank you very much. Right? Centering me and helping me to understand what's important for me, as opposed to, well, it's important to be a mom, and that comes first, and you need to just ask for some more time, because that's you putting forth your values on me, instead of saying, no, Desyree, I hear you saying both are important. Both matter to you in terms of your identity, and centering that. So to your question, how important it is absolutely important. And it's important for you to go beyond competence. It's important for you to be humble enough to understand that you may not, what may be important to you may be different for me. You may not fully know what's going on. And so part of the process, part of the assessment process of identity-based trauma is helping me to identify for myself what's important for me. Help me develop my narrative, my identity, my story. In the backdrop, looking at what are the stereotypes, what are the roadblocks to that story? What are the things that my family has said? What are the things that society is saying about me as a Black woman, as a queer woman, as a full-figured woman in achieving all my goals, right? Help me to center that. You don't have to share any of those identities. But what I did was created a conceptual framework to say, I don't care if we don't have the same identity. If you center me as the client and you focus on these things, helping me develop my story and looking at what the background, I call it the background narrative is. The background is all the folks chirping, right? Oh, Nicole, you shouldn't have been doing no dissertation why you got pregnant, all of that, right? All of those stories that people, and of course, well-intentioned. This is friends and family too, right? Looking out and trying to do the right thing, but they can become part of the, you shouldn't do this or you can't do this. And all of those, the combination of all of that creates the imposter feeling, like, oh, what am I doing? I'm not good enough. I'm not capable enough. So yes, it is important for therapists. And that's why I did the work. That's why I researched it. And a lot of really great information came from it that I am going to be getting that book together and getting it out there because folks need to know. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And listen, I'm sure my producer's probably like, he's gonna probably say after the show, when's she coming back? Because I feel like we need to have you back on. Because we didn't get through none of these questions, but that was fine. But I feel like there's still more that we need to talk about. So we are, and you'll probably be surprised to hear we're almost done. We're at the end of our time. Yes, that's why I'm like, you might need to come back.
That was the intro. That was the intro. Yeah, for sure.
Come back. So before we close out, though, you wanted to share a resource for people that may be wanting to access mental health services, and I hope the producer got the photos to share. So if you could speak to some of those resources.
Yes.
Oh, here they are. Is this the one?
Yes, this is a list of the current really okay, great. It's enlarged on the screen. Check out these websites, right? The ones that I use, therapyforblackmen.org, Therapy for Black Girls. Those are my two favorites. But all of these are really cliniciansofcolor.org, I should say, is run by a good friend of mine. All three of those are websites that, and all the others that, I'm just not as familiar with the rest of them, but those three I know very specifically, where you can access Black mental health providers who are trained, ready, and capable to support you. And in keeping with, Mental Health Month, listen, these are folks that when you sit down and talk to them, for the most part, they can connect with your identity. They can connect with your narrative. And I know this is how we were trained to believe that everybody, we can help everybody. But listen, based on the work that I've done with identity-based trauma, it's just important to not have to repeat everything. It's important to be talking to somebody who can just get it, You're already traumatized and all that. You don't want to be like, well, this is what this is and this is what this means. No, you just want to be able to talk freely and know the person on the other end gets it. So when you're talking to somebody, for the most part, who looks like you, who can connect with you, again, no, they're not going to know your whole story, but they can at least connect with it. So check that website out. And listen, we are here to dispel the myth of you only go see a therapist when you're crazy. And a lot of us, it's when we're feeling like out of it, like we can't even move another step. We can't get out the bed is when we go. And I want to, and we'll, hopefully y'all have me back again. We could talk about the signs and that we need to focus on getting there a lot sooner before it becomes a crisis for us, right? Normalize that. Yeah.
Yes. So absolutely. So everybody that's watching now, take a screenshot of the screen so you can have this reference for you. You can also do it, watch it on the replay, do the same thing. So yeah, thank you, Kwame, for clear the screen. So take a screenshot. We give you a couple seconds to do that. And then we're going to close out. I want to thank you, Dr. Dixon. And yes, we're going to try to have you back. I'm going to have a conversation with the producer about that. But let me go ahead and do my little closeout spiel. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. You know where you can find me on my social media. I'm on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram. Not so much Facebook, y'all, but I'll be around, and I'm starting to get back to myself. I've kind of been away because I was like, I gotta get this dissertation done, but I'm starting to get myself slowly back to social media. You can always check out my website though at www.NicoleDvick.com. It's a beautiful website created by Pyro Media Network. They maintain and have created it. You can reach out to me about speaking, emceeing, all those great things. My books are on the website for purchase. I have 3. I have what's the first one? Pushing Through. Push through. And then the third one is Triumph in the Trenches, which is the newest anthology that I did in collaboration with 20 plus authors. It's been getting some press internationally. I just found out today someone in Australia reposted a story about it. So I'm like, okay. But yeah, thank you so much. We will see you next week. I think I'm gonna do a rerun, but maybe you can come back. We'll talk, Desyree, at the end of the month. We'll see. But anyway, thank y'all for watching, and thank you, Dr. Dixon.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
Thank you for watching Pyro Media Network. For more information, please visit pyromedianetwork.com.